Hello viewers, welcome back to English Only Zone. I'm back with my videos after a long gap, and now I'm starting with the series of explanation of new NCERT book stories. CBSE schools are using now new NCERT book. The name of this book is Kaveri, and the chapter of the book, the first chapter is How I Taught My Grandmother to Read. Let's start with the explanation of the story. So this story is about a 12-year-old girl who is narrating the entire story herself. So let's understand. When I was a girl of about 12, I used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with my grandparents. Those days the transport system was not very good. So we used to get the morning paper only in the afternoon. Here the girl is narrating that when she was about 12 years old, she used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with her grandparents. And those days it was written many years ago, and so in those days the transport system was not very good, और इसी वजह से जो मॉर्निंग का पेपर होता था वो उनको आफ्टरनून में मिलता था. मीन्स द न्यूज़पेपर विच वी गेट इन द मॉर्निंग दे यूज टू गेट इन द आफ्टरनून दोज डेज. And the weekly magazine used to come one day late. और जो weekly magazine होती थी, it used to come after a day. All of us would wait eagerly for the bus, which used to come with the papers, weekly magazines and the post. And so, as the newspaper used to come late, the magazine used to come one day late. So all of the people living there in that village of North Karnataka, they used to eagerly wait for the papers, weekly magazines and even the postcards or the letters. At that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in the Kannada language. She was a wonderful writer. Her style was easy to read and very convincing. And during those days, Triveni was a very popular writer in Kannada language. So she was a wonderful writer and she was appreciated for her writing style. Her style was easy to read and it was convincing. लोग उनकी बात आसानी से समझ जाते थे और उनकी बात को एग्री भी करते थे. Her stories usually dealt with complex psychological problems in the lives of ordinary people and were always very interesting. उनकी जो स्टोरीज होती थी ना वो कॉम्प्लेक्स साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम्स को डील किया करती थी, उनके बारे में हुआ करती थी, ऑर्डिनरी लोगों के लाइफ के बारे में हुआ करती थी, जो वो डे टू डे प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करते हैं उनके बारे में हुआ करती थी. और इस वजह से जो ऑर्डिनरी लोग होते थे वो उनकी स्टोरीज़ को बहुत पसंद करते थे और वो उनको बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग भी लगती थी. आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड टिल हियर. Unfortunately for Kannada literature, she died very young. Even now, after 40 years, people continue to appreciate her novels. So, unfortunately for Kannada literature, it was an unfortunate event that Triveni died at a very young age. And now also, after 40 years of her death, people still appreciate her novels and her novels are still read by people. One of her novels called Kashi Yatre was appearing as a serial in the Kannada weekly Karamveera then, and one of her novels was Kashi Yatre. It was appearing as a serial. Nowadays we watch serial on our mobile phones, on television, but earlier when these facilities were not available with the people, so the serials used to come in the magazines. So there was a novel Kashi Yatre written by Triveni. So that novel used to appear in the form of serial in different episodes in the weekly magazine named Karamveera. The name of the magazine was Karamveera. The name of the novel written by Triveni was Kashi Yatre. और काशी यात्रे के एपिसोड्स बनकर कर्मवीरा मैगजीन में हर वीक आया करते थे. It is the story of an old lady and her ardent desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi. So this Kashi Yatre was the name of the novel, and it was the story of an old lady and her ardent desire. Ardent means very eager, keen desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi and to worship Lord Vishweshwara there. Most Hindus believe that going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishweshwara is the ultimate पुण्य. ज़्यादातर हिंदूज़ ये बिलीव करते हैं कि काशी जाना और वहाँ पर लॉर्ड विश्वेश्वरा जी की पूजा करना, इससे उनको पुण्य मिलता है या फिर उनको मोक्ष की प्राप्ति हो सकती है. they get salvation there. This old lady also believed in this, and her struggle to go there was described in that novel. So, this old lady also believed in this, and her struggle to go there was described in this novel. In the story, there was also a young orphan girl who falls in love, but there was no money for the wedding. So, in this story, there was another story of a young orphan girl who falls in love, but as she was orphan, she had no parents, so there was no money for the wedding ceremony. In the end, the old lady gives away all her savings without going to Kashi. And in the end, what happens? The old lady gives her all of her savings to this young orphan girl for the wedding. And she did not go to Kashi also. She says the happiness of this orphan girl is more important than worshipping Lord Vishweshwara at Kashi. And this we all believe कि किसी person की या फिर किसी लिविंग बीइंग की मदद करना ज़्यादा अच्छा होता है as compared to going to temples and worshipping God there, because God resides in every living body. So it's better to serve any living being instead of going to temples and serving God. My grandmother Krishitka never went to school, so she could not read. Every Wednesday, the magazine would come and I would read the next episode of this story to her. So, this girl, as she was living with her grandparents, so her grandmother named Krishittaka, she never went to school, so she could not read. And every Wednesday, the magazine would come and I would read the next episode of the story to her. And this girl used to read the next episode of the story to her grandmother as she was unable to read or write, as she did not go to school ever. During that time, she would forget all her work and listen with the greatest concentration. And at the time when the girl used to narrate the story to her grandmother, the grandmother used to forget all her work and she would listen to this girl with greatest concentration. Later, she could repeat the entire text by heart, and she used to listen with such concentration that later on she used to recite the entire text, the entire story out to her by heart. My grandmother too never went to Kashi, and she identified herself with the novel's protagonist. Now, this girl's grandmother, she also never went to Kashi, and she also wished to go there. And as she was also old, the protagonist of the story was also old, and both had the same desire of going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishweshwara there. So she identified herself with the novel's protagonist. उनको ये लगता था कि वो उनकी जो लाइफ है वो नॉवल की प्रोटैगनिस्ट से काफ़ी रेजोनेट करती है. So more than anybody else, she was the one most interested in knowing what happened next in the story and used to insist that I read the serial out to her. And so that's why, more than anyone else, her grandmother was most interested in knowing what happened next in the story, and she used to insist, she used to force her granddaughter that she should read out the serial to her. After hearing what happened next in Kashi Yatre, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard, where we children would also gather to play hide and seek. And after hearing out the story from her granddaughter, that what happened next in Kashi Yatre in the new episode, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard. वो टेम्पल में जाकर वहाँ पर अपनी बाकी फ्रेंड से मिला करती थी, और वहाँ पर ये बच्चे भी जाया करते थे. ये जो गर्ल है जिसने ये स्टोरी नरेट करी है वो, और उसकी जो ग्रैंड मदर थी उनकी फ्रेंड्स की भी ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन आया करते थे. एंड दे वुड यूज टू प्ले हाइड एंड सीक देयर. She would discuss the latest episode with her friends. At that time, I never understood why there was so much of debate about this story. And there in the temple courtyard, along with her friends, the grandmother used to discuss about the latest episode of the story. And at that time, this girl never understood why there was so much of debate, why these old ladies used to discuss so much about that story. Once I went for a wedding with my cousins to the neighboring village. In those days, a wedding was a great event. We children enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. We would eat and play endlessly, savoring the freedom because all the elders were busy. Once what happened that this girl went for a wedding with her cousins to the neighboring village. In those days, wedding used to be a great event. बहुत सारे दिनों तक wedding के events चला करते थे. And these children, they enjoyed themselves thoroughly. And in earlier times, there were no helpers, there were no maids. And now we take help of wedding planners and all. But in those days, there were no such help given to someone for the wedding. तो घर के ही सारे लोग इन्वॉल्व हुआ करते थे मैरिज की सारी प्रिपरेशंस में. तो इस वजह से बच्चों को ना ज़्यादा टाइम मिल जाया करता था अपनी फ्रीडम एंजॉय करने का. And so these children, they enjoyed themselves thoroughly. They would eat and play endlessly, savoring the freedom. Savoring means enjoying the best of the freedom because all the elders were busy. I went for a couple of days but ended up staying there for a week. So this girl, she went there for a couple of days but ended up staying there for a week. कुछ दिन के लिए गई थी but वहाँ पर वो एक हफ्ते के लिए रुक गई. When I came back to my village, I saw my grandmother in tears. I was surprised, for I had never seen her cry even in the most difficult situations. What had happened? I was worried. So when she came back to her village, she saw that her grandmother was crying. And this girl was surprised because she had never seen her grandmother crying even in the most difficult times of her life. Then what must have happened? I was worried. This girl was worried. Awa, is everything all right? Are you okay? So this girl asked her grandmother if everything was all right and if she was okay. I used to call her Awa, which means mother in the Kannada spoken in North Karnataka. So as she used to stay with her grandparents only, so she used to call her grandmother as her mother. तो वो अपनी ग्रैंडमदर को अव्वा कहा करती थी. और अव्वा नॉर्थ कर्नाटका में जो कन्नड़ बोली जाती है उसमें अव्वा का मतलब होता है मदर. She nodded but did not reply. I did not understand and forgot about it. So she nodded, the grandmother nodded that it was all right, everything is all right. And this girl, she was also of about 12 years only and she could not make out that there was something brewing in the mind of her grandmother. In the night after dinner, we were sleeping in the open terrace of our house. It was a summer night and there was a full moon. Ava came and sat next to me. Her affectionate hands touched my forehead. I realized she wanted to speak. I asked her, "What's the matter?" Now, in the night after dinner, they used to sleep in the open terrace of the house because there was no electricity during those times. It was a summer night and it was full moon night, means a beautiful night. Ava came there and sat next to her granddaughter. Her affectionate hands touched my forehead and she touched her granddaughter's forehead affectionately with her hands. I realized she wanted to speak, and this girl realized that the grandmother wanted to speak something, and so she asked her what was the matter. Now the grandmother started telling something. When I was a girl, I lost my mother. There was nobody to look after and guide me. My father was a busy man and got married again. In those days, people never considered education essential for girls, so I never went to school. I got married very young and had children. So, what story did the grandmother tell this young girl? That when grandmother was a young girl, she lost her mother, and there was nobody to look after and guide this young girl. Means when the grandmother was young, so when she lost her mother, and that's why there was no one to take care of her. And her father, grandmother's father, was a very busy man and he got married again. During those days, people never considered education essential for girls. Education was never considered important for girls during those times. And so she never went to school. Then she got married at a very young age and had children. I became very busy. Later, I had grandchildren and always felt so much happiness in cooking and feeding all of you. At times, I used to regret not going to school. So I made sure that my children and grandchildren studied well. And after her marriage, She became very busy. Later, she had grandchildren and always felt so much happiness in taking care of her grandchildren, cooking for them, and feeding them. And at times, she used to regret not going to school. Sometimes it happens ना कि जब हमारे पास टाइम होता है कुछ करने का तब हम वो कर नहीं पाते और बाद में हमें कुछ कुछ समय बाद बहुत रिग्रेट होता रहता है कि हमने वो काम तब क्यों नहीं किया था जब हमारे पास टाइम था. So now she used to regret not going to school. And so she made sure that her children and grandchildren studied well. Be it a girl or a boy, she made sure that all her grandchildren studied properly. So, this was the first part of the story. The second part will be uploaded tomorrow. I hope you have understood the first part of the story, how I taught my grandmother to read. If you have any doubts regarding any part of the story, or if you have not understood any word, you may write your query in the comment box. I'll reply. Thank you so much for watching.